Hi, Jennifer.
Hi May, how you
How are
doing?
you?
Good, nice to see you.
Nice to see you again. We are very excited to have you talking about squiggly careers. No one's really talked about squiggly careers yet. So,
Oh,
yeah, really excited to know what it means, hear more about your squiggly career. So, should we get started?
yeah, sounds great.
Well, do you want to just introduce yourself and maybe tell everyone a bit about who you are, what you do, and talk about your squiggly career? What does that mean?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Jennifer King. I'm currently the Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and UK lead for education at Adobe. So I look after primary and secondary schools for the most part. And we have a whole team that does higher ed and universities as well. And I help students and teachers learn about their digital skills and learn about Adobe and start moving towards creative media skills, communication skills, all of those great things in the classroom. So that's what I do now. So I work at Adobe. Previously, I worked at Microsoft and blah, 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 blah. And we'll talk about all kinds of turns and twists in my career. I'm so surprised that you haven't had anyone talk about squiggly careers yet. When I was in secondary school, I remember being told that I would have 7 careers in my lifetime. And I remember being like, oh, that's crazy because my parents had one. Like they went into the one career that they had, and that's the career they stayed in until they retired. I think my dad maybe actually changed twice, and he was very, avant-garde in that respect. But my mom, who was a teacher, was always a teacher, and that's sort of what she did. And uh, and I chose to take a very different pathway in my life. And squiggly careers are ones that don't start where they end. You don't end where you started, and you've gone a different way. You're at different companies, you try different things, you learn about different sectors, you learn different skill sets, and all of those things is what makes a squiggly career. And sometimes that can happen at one company. Sometimes a company can be big enough where you are having that very fun little squiggle through different departments, through different skills. But for me, it meant that it went all over the world. It went to all different shapes and sizes of organizations. It went through all different types of sectors. And because of that, I have very few regrets, I guess. And I really encourage young people today to not shy away from that. But it can be scary because it does take guts to not take the easy path.
Mm, I love that. Okay, so when you say, what was your first ever job, Jennifer?
Well, I mean, we won't start all the way back when I was 16, but we'll go with my first job out of university. So I studied art at university. So I have a BFA, a Bachelor's in Fine Arts, and I studied graphic and design. Um, and I actually didn't go into that at all. I moved to Hawaii, and I was the assistant historian on the USS Arizona Memorial there. And so I
Wow.
decided to try history, um, and try out a totally different sector than I had been training in for the previous 4 years, and where I thought I would go. And that was wonderful. Like, it was really fun, and I learned a lot about it. But I also learned that that sector that I was in was very linear, and you needed to invest a lot of, what would you call it, grunt work time. Like, you needed to be in the worst positions in the worst locations for the longest time, writing the longest papers. And I just was like, that does not sound fun. That doesn't sound like what I want to do. So I went back to art and tried that out for a little while. So I did some agency work in Hawaii, and then I moved to Manhattan because apparently, if you make it there, you can make it anywhere. I did not make it there, so don't worry. if you don't make it there, it's really not for everyone, but it is a cool city. And I worked airbrushing the bums of supermodels. So that
No
was my
way.
job. I worked at a lingerie company and spent a lot of my time airbrushing.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, good to know that they are airbrushed and it's not real.
Definitely not real. And those were the early days of Photoshop, and that was the early days of editing images like that. And so did that for a while, and I just wasn't getting a lot out of it, and I felt like I wanted to do different types of work. I didn't want to be airbrushing photographs, and so I tried humanitarian aid work. So I went and switched out of art again, and I joined a U.S. organization called the Peace Corps, and went and lived in an island in the South Pacific for a couple of years, and that's where I fell in love with teaching. So that's where I found teaching and discovered it, and also discovered my love of travel and adventures and cultures and people that were very different from me, and learning. Because when I went originally to the Peace Corps, I was assumed I was helping them. Like that was the assumption, that I was going there, I was going to help, poor people, and it turns out that is not how that worked at all. I was 20 and they had to take care of me because I was 20. and and I learned so much from them, from their culture, from how they live, and it just massively opened up my eyes to the world. And if anyone has that opportunity to go and live in another culture, like really live, not just visit, but like really live in another culture, I highly, highly recommend it. It'll change the way you think about things.
I mean, everything's so global now. Like you do have to have an understanding of different cultures and different countries. And so I think traveling is so much more accessible now and also just really important when it comes to your career.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Languages as well, like being
Languages.
able to speak other languages, but having the empathy for people that don't speak your language is also really important.
So I think what you're saying is it's okay to have different
Yeah.
jobs. It's okay to have different careers. It will work out in the end. And I think, like you said, you studied a subject, arts or, graphic design. And I think there are so many younger people who feel the pressure to have a job in the thing that they've studied or trained for. But I think nowadays it's not really like that anymore, is it? It's not like you study this one subject and then you're going to have that one career for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's right.
What advice do you have then for that person now who is, at school, at university, studying a subject? Like, what job should they take anything that comes along their way, or how do you choose the right squiggly career?
Um, there's a lot of factors that are important of the jobs that you take. I worked at a rental car company for a while because I didn't have any other options, and it wasn't that, and it actually taught me all about sales. It was my first sales position, and it was out of the blue. I hadn't planned on it. It clearly was not related to anything that I had done before, but I needed a job. I needed to pay the rent, and I needed to do what I needed to live. So I took that job, and it actually was great. I learned a lot, and taking any job is okay if you go into it with a growth mindset and you go, okay, what am I going to learn about this role? What kind of impact can I have in this role? What kind of leadership opportunities can I put into this role? And this can be a mindset for any role you take. Like it doesn't have to be at a certain company with a certain name, with a certain title. Like you can have that mindset in anything that you do. And usually having that mindset helps you take on jobs that you're a little less excited about as well, of like looking for the things that I can do that are going to help me progress while I'm in this role, knowing that that isn't where you're always going to be. Like, it's okay to take something that isn't exactly perfect. Just don't stay there. Like,
Mm.
what you really don't want to do is get into a mindset of, I can't leave. What if I never find something else? Or, that sort of thing. You never want to stay in a role where you are mistreated, or you don't feel safe, or you aren't having your career progressed, or you're not heard or listened to or visible. Like, all of those things, like, you'll find a better role somewhere else. Don't worry. Take that leap and try something. But that next role might be very different than the one you're in.
No, I love that advice. I think you're so right. It's not going to be your role forever. Growth mindset, so important. Like find the positives of it. And I I assume you never thought you would end up working at Adobe?
No. So a couple months ago, I was in Times Square at the Adobe office, and I had been there 20 years before with my portfolio, walking up and down that same strip of concrete, trying to find a job. And I never in a million years thought that I would end back there, but working for the company of the technology that I was using 20 years ago, I just think that is like totally cyclical and bizarre. Um, but I also I had no interest in working in corporations. I didn't think that I would be a teacher. I didn't think that I would be in tech. I mean, I really didn't think I'd be in tech at all. And so the fact that I have this career now is is weird, but at the same time, that was the trajectory of the world. We were going into tech in my age group was the best choice to do. That was the best thing. Just like young people now, they've got to be thinking about AI, but they don't have to go into tech to do AI. They just need to know how to optimize the thing that they want to do with AI and with technology. So that's important to have an idea of how can I do the thing that I love,
Mhm.
but optimize using what is the craziest tech revolution that we've had yet.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's been a lot of chat about AI. Um, so what kind of skills would you say are really important at the moment for young people to be learning?
um, I think you need to focus. So you think you want to think about like a 50-50 split between skills that are about how you show up. And then there are the skills that you do. And those things are equally important. There are people who are successful that show up really, really well. And what they do is kind of, eh. And there are people that do amazing things and don't show up very well. Both of those people will find blockers in their career at some point. And so you have to nurture both sides equally of starting with that growth mindset. So, how am I presenting myself? How do I present the work that I'm doing? How do I make sure people know about the work I'm doing? How do I tell that story about the work I'm doing? Um, how do I communicate with people who are above me on many layers above? How do I speak their language? What's the language that they speak? And what do I know their priorities and what they want? All of that kind of stuff. Um, Being able to build rapport with anyone in the company is really important. Learning the importance of your pleases and thank yous, no matter who you're talking to, of any requests that you have, and understanding that every conversation, every project you're given is an opportunity to learn and grow and take feedback. early in your career, take as much feedback as you can and apply that and smile and graciously and take that on board, because it will only help you in the future. And then on the skills for like what you do, absolutely start learning everything you can about AI. Start using it as much as you can in a positive, um, with positive intent. You don't want to be using AI to skip steps or to not have to think about something or to get a quick answer. You want to be using AI in order to develop your thought process, to develop that thing that you have that you really want to amplify. So, use it really positively. Um, you'll want to think about agility in your thought processes. There's something that someone said to me, who was in design school, that said, never keep an idea for more than 10 minutes. Like, don't work on an idea for more than 10 minutes. Once you've passed 10 minutes, you are emotionally attached to that idea. And then when you get feedback, it's a lot harder because you're like, oh, it's my baby. But it's not. It's just one idea of a million ideas that you could have. And so you want to get it out there as early as possible and show as many people as possible. But when you go into an interview and you show up really well, you have to have the skill set that the company you're talking to needs. You have to know the engineering terms. You need to understand how sales work. You need to know the software that they use at that company. You need to be able to show that you have certifications in that software. So there's some like really hard, concrete things when you're going into an interview. Make sure you find out what those things are that company does that you can then get certified in, or the knowledge of. Um, and and the knowledge that you already have, if you already have certifications in another type of technology, bring that to them, because that is very valuable.
Mm. And obviously you work at Adobe, digital skills. What kind of recommendations do you have for everyone in terms of how they could use Adobe, or teachers who are listening?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, just give it a go. I mean, like maybe there's one theme to the Squiggly career, is like a growth mindset. Just like give it a go, just try it out, and make something that brings you joy to start with, and just see how it all works. Um, the generative AI tool is amazing. You can generate anything you could possibly think of. As a teacher, it's really cool because you need to hone your students need to hone their vocabulary and their syntax and the way that they're communicating. So that's a really cool skill for students to learn. There is a feature that my own daughters, who are teenagers, love, called Animate Character. And instead of you having to present something, so if you have a presentation due in class, you can have the character do it for you. It's
Oh,
obviously your voice, but the character will act it out for you. And their teachers absolutely love it when they use that, because they generally have a lot more confidence, and they present much better as they're building up to being able to speak in front of a whole class. So
so
yeah.
how can people access it?
Okay, so Adobe Express is free for everybody. If you're over 13, you just put in your email address. At your school, you want to reach out to your IT administrator, and they can get it deployed for everybody across the whole school. And if you are at the level where you're ready to go to Creative Cloud and use Photoshop, InDesign, Lightroom, all of that great stuff, then you're looking at a paid for package that is either a monthly subscription, or your school or college or university can get that licensing for the whole school.
Oh, wow. So you have Adobe Express, which is free for all schools.
Yeah. Well, and
Okay.
and and free. You can get the like the low level consumer version for free. Like, everyone can use it. You can use it. Your dad can use it. Anyone can use it.
Wow.
But if you want the premium version, then
Yeah.
that is a little cost every month. But for education users, anyone in a primary, secondary school, totally free.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. I'll put it in the chat so everyone can have a look at it. Um, what would your advice be for someone who's scared of taking risks? Because I think it sounds like you took a lot of risks changing jobs and you know, I guess people also think that maybe it's scared to feels like they're quitting or it's failure. What would you say to people who are a bit scared about that?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a therapy session. Like, you have to find out what is the root of the fear there. Because the root of the fear of wanting to take the risk can be any of those things you said, whether you're afraid people will judge you for it, in which case you might want to look into the spotlight effect, where there's an idea that you think everyone is looking at you, and that everyone will judge, and actually no one is looking at you, and they're thinking about themselves.
Yeah.
So like you have to kind of think about that. Sometimes it might be a fear of failure, but there is no failure in learning. There's always a story to be had on an experience that you've had. You can always come away with a learning. I have had many jobs that have not been ideal. I have had jobs where I have failed. I have had really bad feedback. I have been unsuccessful in the traditional sense of the word, but boy, did I learn a lot from those things. And it takes time, because you can get in shame spirals, you can have thought loops, you can have anxiety, like, but all of those things you have to come at with, this is not forever. Nothing is permanent. Everything washes over like the waves of an ocean. Like it will go away. Like, you will get bad feedback, you will take it on. If you ignore it, that's a problem. But if you get bad feedback, you take it on, you apply it, you think about it, then let that just roll away. And good
You have
feedback
to
will come.
trust it, trust the process.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now look at you. You're head of, education at Adobe across EMEA, which is all those amazing countries. Um, and that's just really impressive. I think it just gives, hopefully it's giving people a bit of confidence just to be like, yeah, would you say you started doing like car rental? You've worked in history, you've worked all over. But yeah, you kind of, I love, Steve Jobs always saying you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking back. And I think people who are a bit more further on in their career, we understand that. And you do just have to go with it, trust your gut, and things will work out.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing that I would say is there will come a time where you're in a job and it will have the flow. Like, you will be in the flow. It will happen at some point in your career lifetime. You will do something where you're like, oh, this feels good. Like, this feels right. Like, everything about this fits. And when that happens, think about that. Digest it, dissect it, evaluate it, reflect on it, because that's the nuggets that you want to take with you to all the other things you're going to do in the future. Can you replicate at least some of that? But if you don't think about it and you kind of ignore it, it's hard then in the future to be like, I was so great, like, but now I'm not happy. And it's because you didn't take the things that you loved so much with you, into your next role. Like, I love teaching. Teaching is my absolute passion, and I will go back to it, like, 100%. Like, it was where my flow was, and it was wonderful. And I just found lots of other ways to help students and teachers at a bigger and bigger scale, and that's why I sort of moved away from it. But I really miss it every day.
Oh, but like that's great because it's trial and error. And like you said, you know the feeling of discontentment, you know the feeling of when you're not doing something that lights you up versus when something lights you up. And that I think is what everyone should be looking for, is finding out what makes you tick and what makes you on fire.
Yeah,
Um, oh, someone says, even right now she is teaching. She is
thank you.
teaching us. Oh, thank you, Kiwi. That was really
Thank
nice. Exactly. And you can teach in many different formats. Well, time is up, Jennifer, already. I know it's gone so quickly. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your journey and sharing your challenges, because I think sometimes we need to hear that actually not everyone has just rolled out of bed and landed their dream job. And it is hard, it is challenging, but you are a walking example of how you can break that glass ceiling and get to where you want to be. So yes, thank you again.